Tonight's first order of business, how to negotiate with a bully and Canada's conflict-ridden trade relationship with the United States. Today, the fight is about the U.S. insistence on labeling Canadian and Mexican beef, a thinly veiled Buy America tactic slammed by everyone from trade bodies to U.S. cattlemen. Having won yet another ruling, should Canada retaliate with ad hoc tariffs on ketchup and cheese? It has us wondering, if the schoolyard bully takes your lunch, how often do you let him before you get your fists up? Of course, this bully is the world's economic superpower and a lifeline to our economy, so it may be a fight we can't win. The options aren't appealing on either side, and in both cases, we risk losing our lunch. Welcome to The Exchange. Treating Canadian meat differently from U.S. meat isn't exactly free trade, yet American grocery stores list the country of origin on meat packages, and Ottawa calls that blatantly protectionist. The U.S. rules cost our pork and beef industries $1 billion a year. When they started the labeling, it cut Canada's meat exports in half. So Canada's threatening 38 specific products for new tariffs, including California wine, Florida orange juice, and Vermont maple syrup. The move comes at the tail end of a 5-year fight and was the third time the World Trade Organization ruled those U.S. meat labeling laws discriminate against Canadian products. Trade isn't the only area where outsiders are pushing Canada around. Today, the Union of Concerned Scientists, a U.S.-based organization, published an open letter signed by 815 scientists from dozens of countries worldwide. They called attention to what they call a rapid decline in freedoms and funding extended to Canadian government scientists. They're urging Prime Minister Stephen Harper to remove excessive and burdensome restrictions. This year, Canada will spend more than $10 billion on science and technology. It is down 5.4% from last year, but it's a heck of a lot more than Brazil or Bangladesh spent, two signatories to the letter. So perhaps scientists from those countries who signed the letter should turn their attention to their own nations. That doesn't mean there isn't a problem here, though. The union representing Canadian government scientists did a survey last year and found 90% of scientists who responded felt they could not now speak freely about their work. Time to check in with Evan Solomon for the political X factor on this file. And Evan, this is one that I think on another day or at another time might actually really sting. I will admit, though, I had one first reaction that was, look to your own countries. Why do we need folks from Libya, literally scientists from Libya, telling us how to fund our science and research here?
Well, okay, fair enough. There may be all sorts of hypocrisies going over there, but there's two interesting parts to this story. One, scientists feel muzzled. Whether scientists in the bureaucracy support government policy, they're bureaucrats, they shouldn't have a political position, but they feel muzzled. They don't feel that their science is getting enough publicity, and they don't feel that they can speak. That's an issue. But second of all, let's talk about the genuine cuts. There have been about 5.4% cut from the $10.3 billion allocated, according to Stats Canada Science. Remember, that is the lowest it's been since 2010-11. That was the peak period. So there's been a steady decline in investment, not only in R&D, Amanda, which is about 63% of it, the lion's share of that money, but also in pure science. So there's less money going to research, and we're hearing less about it. That could be a problem.
Well, okay, it could be a problem, but I guess that's where I sort of start to get interested in this subject. Spending less on things is something governments do, right? They do make decisions about how to allocate tax dollars. It's not a bottomless pit of money. The implication here is, these were environmental scientists, we should note, and the implication has been that this is a government that picks and chooses which scientists, which organizations, even when it comes to some of the tax credit for some charitable organizations, that it'll pick on them.
Political issues out of what some scientists say is pure science, and the rubber hits the road on fundamental issues. Look, the Fifth Estate did a program on this, and they said over the last number of years, 2,000 scientists have been cut, specifically in some programs that have been cut. Water monitoring, smokestack emissions, climate change. Sure, they're environmental, but remember, in light of what the report recently from the Environment Commissioner said, Amanda, remember, just 2 weeks ago, the Environment Commissioner came out and said Canada will not hit its Copenhagen levels of carbon emissions reduction. It said also there's no real good monitoring on the water situation and the emissions in Alberta and the oil sands. And remember, this country has been waiting since 2000 2007 for those promised regulations on the oil and gas sector from the government.
Let's get the political
let alone
X
getting
factor
the science, we don't have the regulation.
What does it boil down to, though, politically? Because I suspect that for the Conservatives' base, it doesn't really matter. Climate change may not even be happening for some of those people. Does this play badly for the Prime Minister or not?
The rubber hits the road. Forget the base for a second. There's a fundamental issue here, which is everyone around the world, including Canada, said we've got to curtail carbon emissions. This government signed on to the Copenhagen, and the question is, if we blow through those targets, we've got to know why. And part of the scientists' argument is we don't even know the answers, and unless we've got the right facts, we can't make the right decisions. And that's what the scientists say they are there for, and that's why this science story is interesting. Whether you're on the left, the center, or the right on anything, the facts should be neutral. You've got to get the facts right before you can determine what's the right policy. The problem is if you don't have objective facts, well, then it's pretty hard to have policy, and that makes the political strategists more powerful than the scientists. And I think that's why the scientists are saying these are high-stakes issues. Get the facts right and let the public know about them.
All right, get the facts right. There's your X factor. Thanks, Evan.